campaign. Joining me right now, the author of the book GOP, GPS, Evan Siegfried. He's a Republican who says he will never support Donald Trump. I'm also joined by two of Trump's economic advisors, David Malpass, a former Deputy Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan, and Howard Lorber, the President and CEO of the Vector Group. Good to have you all here. 15% corporate tax. Howard, what will that do for our economy?
Well, that'll do a lot for our economy. That'll create a tremendous amount of jobs. The small corporations will benefit a lot and be able to grow their businesses into larger corporations and hire people. And the only way to get the economy moving from the lousy growth we're at now is to create jobs. And this is a way to create jobs, without question.
One of the problems, David, is that so many companies are choosing to move overseas because they have more competitive tax rates overseas than we have here in the United States. Will that change under this plan?
That will change dramatically. There's two provisions. One is the lower rate. The lower corporate rate will mean that businesses can invest here. But in addition, there's a way to bring the money back that's been locked abroad. So a lot of companies have been making money abroad, and this gives a 10% rate to bring it in. So the expectation is there'll be a lot more cash in the U.S. economy and more business investment.
You know, I've never understood this one. I mean, the idea that you have $2 trillion sitting overseas, that's already been taxed, by the way, overseas, and it would be subjected to another 35% tax in the U.S. It leaves all this money overseas instead of bringing it back to create more growth opportunity here in the U.S. Evan, I know you don't like Donald Trump, but you had to have kind of liked that tax plan.
The tax plan's fine, but the problem is Donald Trump. We could have somebody like Mike Pence if he were at the top of the ticket, or any of the other Republicans who ran, and if they were pushing it, I would be all there supporting him.
Yeah, the people elected
but Donald Trump is characteristically unfit to be president of the United States. On top of that, he is absolutely doing everything in his power to damage the Republican Party and damage us with every key demographic we need to build and grow. Millennials, urban voters, he's pushing them all away. He's at 1% with African Americans. And he can say, listen, I have this great tax plan, and it is, but that's not going to bring them into the fold.
Okay, so what do you think he needs to do right now to get people like Evan on board a little bit more? David, if he sticks to the economy and he sticks to national security, is he going to help sway some Republicans that are out there like Evan? Well,
and I think Democrats and independents, too. And the reason for that is because he's proposing a transformation of the way Washington works with the public. So the problem that we've had, and that's hurting a lot of people that don't have the job skills, that don't have a lot of assets, is Washington has regulations that keep small businesses from even starting. So, the purpose of the plan is the vision that America can be a lot better, a lot faster growing than it is right now. The biggest beneficiaries are going to be minorities, youth, people left out, people with lower skills.
Yet, Howard, those people don't feel like they would be the beneficiaries. Do we need a disruptor in Washington right now?
Well, I think without question the 14 million people that came out and voted for Trump in the primaries, I think, proves that. We do need a disruptor. And the idea of just doing the same old thing is going to give you the same old result. And the same old result has not been good the last 8 years and would be worse to have another 4 years or 8 years of that same old thing.
You know, the one thing, though, that scares people is they feel like, okay, Donald Trump, you know, he could go one of two ways. He could come in and be the greatest president we've ever had in U.S. history, solve the conflict with ISIS, get the economy going back again, or, you know, things could get really, really rough. And people, there's a part of them that Evan feel like, okay, well, Hillary Clinton, I may not like her, and you may be in this crowd, I may not like her, but, you know, I kind of know what I'm going to get, and it's not good, but at least it's not potentially horrible. Are people not being optimistic enough? Evan?
Well, after the week Donald Trump had last week, I think we've seen what Donald Trump could do as president, which is be a toddler who has no self-control, no ability to focus and say,
I don't know how you get to be a billionaire, right, and have no self-control. The one thing I would say is he's
also not paying your bills and outrunning creditors. That's how Donald Trump is run.
No, that's not
and also running a very good primary campaign, a good convention, a good Detroit economic
disaster.
I don't agree at all.
It was doom and gloom. The country is so terrible. America's a terrible place. I believe in the vision of the country that President Reagan had.
There's a big unifying force going on by having Mike Pence, as you say. Look at the Rust Belt governors. They're Republicans. Republicans. They're doing a better job managing the economy, and that's getting picked up by going to Detroit yesterday.
Look at these
talk
numbers.
about the way
polls
to
are
get
showing
growth.
him heading toward a disastrous election day.
Well,
among conservatives,
I don't
as
think
the
the
nominee,
polls. I don't think the polls today are very.
Wait,
meaningful.
I want to jump in. This is an interesting point.
Yeah.
Howard, why do you not think the polls are totally
I don't
right
think the
today?
polls, you know, history has shown it. I mean, you look at Ronald Reagan.
Or
okay?
Brexit.
Yeah, on Brexit, people were afraid to say they wanted Brexit. They wanted to move out of the Eurozone.
So there was also
there's
Dukakis, by the way, this time back in 1988 in August was leading.
There's a lot of people that will never say that they're going to vote for Donald Trump
Why?
that are going to pull the lever. They think it's not politically correct. They don't want people
when the
polls were accurate in the primaries.
I would say the other thing I think we're really missing is Donald Trump is not going to be the one person that makes every decision. As you know, with your background, we do have Senate and we do have a Congress.
And he has to
we
work
do
with
have
them.
checks,
Still fighting.
and we do have checks and balances. So the way you're laying it out, it would be as if Donald Trump is the dictator. He had no one to report to. No one has to agree with him, and he could just go on whatever he wants to do.
I alone
that is
can
completely
fix it.
ridiculous.
That's what Donald Trump said.
But here's
maybe
the one.
you can.
Okay,
Maybe you
Evan,
can.
hang on for a second. One of the things that I think is unique to anybody who's been an entrepreneur or a businessman, and both you guys are, so you can weigh in on this, is that you learn very quickly that you need to be able to work with the other side. I mean, otherwise you never get a deal done, right?
How would Donald Trump have ever accomplished what he accomplished if he was a dictator and walked away from the negotiating table? He doesn't. Donald Trump would be the best negotiator, one of the best negotiators you'll ever see.
David.
And the added factor is he's not a career politician, and so part of this,
scam artist.
well, part of this is changing the thrust. So the thrust of the primary, the thrust of the convention, and now what you're talking about is really the building blocks for governing that will make America really a lot better economy.
David, Howard, thank you so much. Evan's going to stick with me. Really interesting conversation. Well, the